In the heart of Cape Town, in a sprawling white mansion surrounded by lush greenery, lived one of the city's most powerful women, Melissa Stanford, CEO of PulsePoint Technologies. At only 38, Melissa had built an empire from scratch. Her name commanded respect in boardrooms across South Africa, and her success was a source of pride for many young women who dreamed of rising against the odds. But power and money never protected anyone from betrayal, and Melissa would learn this in the cruelest way. Welcome to Afro Tales TV, your home for rich, exciting, and inspiring stories from around the world. Today's story will touch your heart and keep you hooked till the very end. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our amazing stories. It happened on a rainy Thursday morning. Melissa was rushing out to attend a crucial meeting that could expand her company's reach to Europe. Her husband, Ethan, had handed her the car keys with a sweet kiss on her forehead. "Drive safely, love," he said, helping her with her coat. "And call me when you get there." She smiled at him, adjusting her black heels. "I always do." The rain was heavier than usual, but Melissa was used to driving under pressure. However, as she drove down a sharp turn near Chapman's Peak Drive, her brakes failed. The car spun out of control and slammed violently into the rocky side of the mountain. When she woke up 2 weeks later at Cape Private Hospital, the world was no longer the same. "Mrs. Stanford," the doctor said gently, "you've come out of the coma. But I'm afraid there's permanent damage." Her head felt like it was splitting open, and her body wouldn't respond when she tried to move her legs. Her eyes met the doctor's, confused, desperate. "You suffered trauma to your brain and spine. You'll need a wheelchair for now. And there's another thing. We've run several tests. You've lost your hearing completely. I'm very sorry." Melissa couldn't believe it. The room was silent, as if her world had been unplugged from sound itself. Days turned into weeks. Melissa was discharged and brought back to the mansion, now with full-time nurses and therapists. Her company appointed a temporary CEO in her absence. She didn't argue. Her energy had been drained, and the silence in her mind was louder than any boardroom could ever be. But there was someone else whose behavior began to change the moment she returned: Ethan. At first, he seemed supportive. He cooked meals, brought her tea, and smiled often. But Melissa noticed the tiredness in his eyes, not the kind that came from worry, but the kind that came from impatience. And then, one day, a woman walked into the mansion wearing a red dress and high heels. "This is Vanessa," Ethan said, placing a hand on the woman's lower back. "She's here to help take care of things around the house, cooking, cleaning, making sure you have everything you need." Vanessa smiled, a little too widely. "It's an honor, Melissa. I've heard so much about you." Melissa nodded weakly from her wheelchair. She tried to speak, but the words felt pointless. No one seemed to talk to her anymore. They only talked around her. That night, Vanessa stayed for dinner. And the night after that. And then, without warning, she moved into one of the guest rooms. At first, the two were cautious. They spoke in whispers, shared glances. But as the days passed and Melissa sat in silence, watching from her wheelchair, their comfort grew. They began speaking freely in front of her, laughing and touching, as if she were invisible. One afternoon, Melissa sat in the sunroom by the glass windows, staring at the garden. Vanessa and Ethan walked in, holding hands. "You know," Vanessa said, sipping wine, "if she weren't in that chair, I'd be so jealous of her beauty." Ethan chuckled. "She's just a shell now, babe. I don't even think she knows we're in the room half the time." Melissa's chest tightened. Her fingers curled around the edge of her wheelchair. They thought she couldn't hear. And they were right. But that didn't mean she couldn't see. The worst part wasn't just the betrayal. It was the cruelty in their voices, like she was no longer human. "She's not going to recover," Vanessa said one night while painting her nails in the living room. And even if she does, she'll be stuck like this forever. You're wasting time." "Patience," Ethan said. "Just a little more time, and everything will be in place." Melissa began to pay attention to their patterns. Ethan had become distant, no longer sleeping in their shared bedroom. Vanessa answered phone calls using Melissa's devices. Once, she saw her on the CEO's old iPad, going through documents. They weren't just cruel, they were planning something. One night, as she sat silently near the kitchen entrance, she watched them toast champagne glasses. "To a new beginning," Vanessa whispered, wrapping her arms around Ethan's neck. "Soon, this house will be ours, the company too." Ethan smiled. Just a little accident away. Melissa's breath caught in her throat. Another accident? But they didn't know one thing. Something had changed. 2 nights later, as she lay in bed, Melissa heard a faint buzzing sound. It was low, distant, and yet unmistakable. Sound. Her ears were picking up faint noises again. At first, she thought it was her imagination, but it wasn't. Every day, her hearing sharpened a little more. No one knew. She didn't tell the doctors. She didn't even blink when Ethan and Vanessa mocked her. She waited. And she listened. One morning, Vanessa entered the room while Ethan was on a call. She leaned over to Melissa and whispered, "You poor thing. If only you could hear the things we say about you." Melissa blinked slowly. She did not respond. But deep inside, something fierce had awakened. Later that evening, she asked one of the nurses to bring her a voice recorder. She claimed it was for speech therapy practice. What no one knew was that Melissa had just begun recording every conversation in the house, every evil plan, every flirtatious comment, every whispered strategy to remove her permanently. She even managed to send text messages to an old friend, Detective Lyle Jacobs, an officer with the South African Police Service. She used the speech-to-text function on her tablet. "Lyle, I need help. I can hear again, but they don't know. Ethan and Vanessa are planning something dangerous. I've started recording everything. Please help me. Melissa." The sun sets on the mansion. Ethan and Vanessa stand by the pool, laughing, sipping wine, while Melissa sits quietly in her wheelchair, a recorder hidden beneath her blanket and her eyes sharper than ever. The days passed quietly, but beneath that silence, a storm brewed. Melissa sat in her wheelchair like a queen on a throne, expressionless, yet fully aware of everything happening around her. She had gathered enough voice recordings, hours of Ethan and Vanessa's private conversations, that they had stupidly shared right in front of her. Her hearing was fully back now, but she didn't let it show. She still pretended to be lost in her quiet world, head tilted, lips still. Ethan had become more careless, and Vanessa, more confident. They thought victory was near. One evening, Melissa sat by the hallway with her blanket and recorder. She listened as the two lovers whispered in the kitchen. "She's getting weaker," Vanessa said, licking honey off a spoon. "You saw the nurse's note? Her blood pressure has been dropping." Ethan poured wine into 2 glasses. "Perfect. Makes it easier." "Are you sure this plan of yours will work?" Vanessa asked. "Of course. You'll take her tea up tomorrow morning. I'll mix the powder in. She'll drift off quietly in her sleep. Natural causes." Melissa blinked. Her chest felt heavy, but she held herself still. They were planning to poison her. She turned her wheelchair around slowly and made her way to her room. That night, she sent every recorded file to Detective Lyle. Her message was short and sharp. "They are going to kill me tomorrow. I have all the evidence. Please come before breakfast. Melissa." Detective Lyle Jacobs had known Melissa for years. She once funded his community outreach program. He was shocked by her message and didn't waste a second. He alerted his team and prepared an operation for the next morning. As the sun began to rise over Cape Town, the mansion remained quiet. Birds chirped, The sea breeze rolled in softly from the coast, and Melissa sat awake in her bed, watching the clock. 6:45 a.m. She heard light footsteps. Vanessa entered, smiling with 2 cups on a tray. One was lemon tea, Melissa's favorite. The other was a cup of black coffee for Ethan. "Good morning, sweetheart," Vanessa said sweetly. "I thought you'd like something warm today." Melissa blinked and nodded slowly. Vanessa placed the tray on the table beside her and gently lifted the teacup. Her hand trembled slightly. "Here you go." Melissa reached forward with a shaky hand, touched the cup, and stopped. "Where's Ethan?" She signed with her fingers. Vanessa didn't notice. She was too distracted trying to encourage her to drink. At that moment, the front door slammed open. "Police!" a loud voice barked. Melissa's eyes remained fixed on Vanessa, who dropped the cup in shock. Detective Jacobs and 2 uniformed officers stormed into the room. "Hands where I can see them! Nobody moves!" Ethan, who had just walked into the hallway, froze. "What the hell is this?" he shouted. "You can't just barge into my house." "Yes, we can," Lyle snapped, holding up a warrant. "You're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to murder, and criminal neglect. We have audio evidence of everything. You and Vanessa have been planning to kill your wife." Vanessa turned pale. "What? No, that's not—" "Save it," Jacobs said coldly. "Melissa recorded every word. You 2 were foolish enough to say it all in front of her." Ethan's face twisted. "She can't hear. She's deaf." Melissa turned her head slowly and met his eyes for the first time in weeks. Then she spoke, calmly, clearly. "I can hear you now, Ethan. I've heard everything." Ethan stumbled back as if slapped. You lied to us?" "No," Melissa said. "You lied to me. You married me for money. You nearly killed me in that accident." Detective Jacobs stepped forward. "We also have surveillance and a witness who confirms you tampered with her car's brakes. That's attempted murder, Ethan." The 2 lovers were handcuffed and led out of the mansion. Vanessa screamed. Ethan looked stunned. Melissa didn't move. She simply sat in her wheelchair and watched them go. In the weeks that followed, Melissa handed over the recordings to the court. The media exploded with the story of Cape Town's tech queen who survived betrayal, murder plots, and a husband's evil plan. She filed for divorce. The company's board welcomed her return with open arms, and PulsePoint's stocks soared. But Melissa wasn't interested in revenge. She focused on healing, on strength, on rebuilding. One afternoon, Detective Jacobs came to visit. "You know," he said, sitting across from her on the veranda, "you're the strongest woman I've ever met." Melissa smiled softly. "I just did what I had to do." "You could have died," he said. "I almost did. Twice. But I think life wanted me to see the truth first." As the breeze touched her face, Melissa looked out into the distance. She wasn't the same woman who once ruled boardrooms in high heels. She was stronger now, and no one would ever silence her again. Never underestimate the strength of someone who appears weak. Melissa's story reminds us that silence is not always helplessness. Even when life tries to break you, through betrayal, disability, or heartbreak, there is still power in patience, wisdom, and quiet strength. Evil may think it's winning, but truth always finds its voice. And when it does, justice follows. Thank you for watching this story on Afro Tales TV. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave us a comment, and share with friends and family. We have more beautiful stories coming your way, so subscribe and stay tuned. See you in the next one.